They didn't ease us into this season, they dropped us straight into the pain. Something feels very different about The Chosen Season 6, Episode 1. And no, this is not the usual first look hype. This feels heavier, darker, almost uncomfortable. And the newly revealed crucifixion footage only confirms one thing: the creators are not holding back anymore. This isn't a gentle opening, this is a warning. From the very first moments of episode 1, the tone shifts. There's no warmth, no slow buildup, no familiar comfort. Instead, there's tension, silence, faces that already know how this story ends. The kind of silence that makes you lean forward and ask yourself, wait, are they really starting here? Because yes, they are. Season 6 doesn't knock on the door, it breaks it down. What's shocking is not just what we see, but how quickly we're thrown into it. The trial of Jesus isn't treated like a future event anymore. It's immediate, it's unavoidable. And the first look footage makes it painfully clear that this season wants us to feel trapped in that moment, just like the characters are. No escape, no relief. Jonathan Rumi's portrayal feels heavier than ever. There's something in his stillness that's almost harder to watch than any dramatic speech. He doesn't fight back, he doesn't defend himself. And that choice makes everything else feel louder. The whispers, the accusations, the judgment already passed before a word is spoken. And you can't help but wonder, is this silence more powerful than anything he could say? The apostles? They're not heroic here. They're confused, afraid, desperate. You can see it in their reactions. This is slipping out of their control, and they know it. Episode 1 doesn't romanticize their faith. It exposes their fear, and that honesty hits harder than expected. These aren't strong men standing tall. These are followers realizing too late that love doesn't protect you from loss. And then there's the crucifixion footage itself. Brief, restrained, but emotionally brutal. The camera doesn't rush, it doesn't look away. And somehow, that makes it worse. This isn't violence for shock value. It's restraint with intention. Every frame feels deliberate, like it's asking the viewer a quiet but dangerous question. Are you actually ready to watch this? Dallas Jenkins wasn't exaggerating when he said, Season 6 is an event. Episode 1 feels like a line being crossed, not just in the story, but in how the series is willing to challenge its audience. This isn't background viewing anymore. This demands attention, emotional presence, and maybe even courage. Because once you realize where episode 1 begins, you also realize something terrifying. There's nowhere left to hide for the rest of the season. So if this is only the beginning, what does that mean for what comes next? And how far is The Chosen willing to go before the cross finally appears in full? And this is where episode 1 becomes even more unsettling, because the deeper you look, the clearer it gets. This season isn't trying to comfort anyone, it's trying to confront us. The first look footage doesn't just show suffering, it lingers in the moments before it. The waiting, the knowing, the unbearable pause between injustice and consequence. And somehow, that waiting feels worse than the punishment itself. Jesus stands before power, not as a threat, but as a mirror. Pilate's hesitation isn't heroic, it's cowardly. He knows the truth and still searches for a way out. Episode 1 makes this painfully obvious. Authority isn't portrayed as evil, screaming villains. It's quiet, polite, procedural, and that's what makes it chilling. No one here believes they're doing wrong. They're just doing what's easier. The crowd, too, is handled differently. There's no dramatic swelling music telling you how to feel. Just faces, ordinary people. People who could change the outcome, but don't. The choice of Barabbas isn't rushed. It's allowed to breathe, forcing the audience to sit with an uncomfortable reality. Injustice doesn't need hatred to survive. It only needs silence. And suddenly, this ancient story doesn't feel ancient at all. What's especially striking is how episode 1 refuses to give us emotional release. There's no inspirational speech, no moment of triumph. Even faith feels heavy here. This is belief tested to its breaking point. The disciples don't understand God's plan, they're drowning in it. And for the first time, the show lets that confusion stay unresolved. The crucifixion imagery, though limited in this first episode, is framed almost like a shadow hanging over every scene. You feel it even when it's not on screen, a future that cannot be avoided. And that looming presence changes everything. Every conversation feels final. Every look feels like a goodbye. It makes you realize this season isn't about what happens to Jesus. It's about what happens to everyone watching. And maybe that's the most shocking part. The Chosen isn't just retelling a story we already know. It's asking us why we still struggle to face it, why we flinch, why we want the resurrection without sitting through the suffering. Episode 1 makes it clear. There are no shortcuts this time. As season 6 unfolds, this first episode sets a dangerous precedent. If this is the emotional weight they're willing to carry right out of the gate, then what happens when the story reaches its darkest hours? Because if episode 1 already feels this heavy, how much more can the audience endure before the cross finally takes center stage?